We are now in section 6, the practice capability development. There will be 2 Bloom's level 2 questions, checking your understanding in the exam. Here we will be understanding the ITIL capability model and how you can use that to develop the practice, meaning its capability. And we will look at certain capability criteria for each of the practice success factors. Let's begin by understanding the practice capability levels. The practice success factors that we looked into earlier, one of them being the establishing the approaches and based on them, the effective deployments, these 2 practice success factors cannot be developed overnight. They take time through good methods, good people behaviors, and performing work as per expectations. The ITIL maturity model defines the following 5 capability levels which are applicable to any of the 34 management practices in ITIL. Level 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. At level 1, there is in fact no maturity. The actual maturity begins from level 2 onwards and up. Level 1 is wherein the practice is not well organized. It is performed as initial or intuitive, meaning in a habitual manner. And therefore, it may not achieve the purpose of the practice because the activities are incomplete, performed inconsistently by different people, and some of them not being performed at all. Level 2 is where the practice begins to achieve its purpose in a systematic way, and that happens because of the activities being performed. The basic activities are in place, and there are specialized resources in place, which means we have the deployment manager and the practitioners established in this case. At level 3, the practice is well defined, achieves its purpose in an organized way. So this is where the practice is organized and well defined. And there are dedicated resources and relies on inputs from other practices that are integrated into a service management system, which means integration happens at level 3. Integration with suppliers, integration of various practices into value streams, integration of information from different areas, all these happens at level 3. At level 4, the practice achieves its purpose in a highly organized way, not just in an organized way. And that happens because the performance of the practice is continually measured and assessed within the context of the service management system. And at level 5, the practice is continually improved, and because of the organizational capabilities are also improved. So these are the 5 levels of the ITIL capability model. Now, as we know, there are 34 practices in ITIL 4, and each practice has a few practice success factors, and the combination of all the PSFs of a practice will fulfill the purpose of the practice. And for each practice success factor or PSF, capability criteria are defined. And because we have 2 practice success factors for the deployment management practice, we will be soon looking at the capability criteria for each of these PSFs. And again, these criteria are defined for the various service management dimensions, the organization and people and so on. So let's take a look at what these are now. So whatever I just explained from that picture is actually on this slide. So for example, the ITIL maturity model defines criteria for every capability level, for every practice. And these criteria can be used to assess the practice ability to fulfill its purpose and contribute to the organization's service value system. And every criteria is mapped to one of the 4 dimensions of service management and to a specific capability level, such as 2, 3, 4, or 5. The higher the capability level, the more comprehensive realization of the practice is expected and will occur. So for example, the criteria related to practice automation are typically defined at level 3s or higher, because effective automation is only possible if the practice is well defined and organized. It may be possible that a certain practice may have some automation at level 2, but generally comprehensive automation is possible only at level 3. So now let's look at each of the practice success factors and those specific capability criteria. And there is also additional information for each of these criteria, the dimension and the capability level, but I would highly recommend that you grab the criteria listed for each practice success factor, because in the exam you may have questions wherein you need to identify which practice success factor a certain criteria belongs to. And then the capability levels, even though I won't delve into them, you can look into that yourself. But generally, these capability levels match to those 5 levels that we, or at least the level 2, 3, 4, and 5 that we understood earlier. And those levels are applicable to all practices. So in the approaches related success factor, the following criteria apply. The approach is defined for deployment. It is agreed. The responsibility for the approach creation is also defined. The approach is integrated with other standards and approaches adopted by the organization. Now, one thing here, this is not at level 3, but level 4, because you might recollect, I mentioned earlier that integration of suppliers, integrated information system, integration with other practices to create the value streams, these occur at level 3, but the integration of the deployment approach with other standards and other approaches, such as the continual improvement approach or whatever, those are happening only at level 4. So please note this entry carefully. Then we know that at level 4, there is monitoring and reporting. Therefore, the same happens for the deployment approach. And at level 5, the deployment approach is regularly reviewed and continually improved. So these are related to the approach, PSF. Now, for the next PSF, the effective deployment itself, based on the defined models or approaches, the following criteria apply. So the first one here is the deployments are successful in the target environments for the new or changed services and components, and the deployment is automated at level 3, that is. So each deployment is automated. And then we also know that the integrated information system is at level 3, and that happens along with the tracking the deployment information. And then at the same level, the competencies and human resources are in place at level 3. Dependencies with third parties, relationships with third parties are in place at level 3, as we know. And at level 3, some unique ones, the workflows and procedures are in place for case-to-case deployment, and technologies and information flows are in place. And though integration with value streams occur at level 3, but here in this practice, it is happening at level 4, as we see in the next entry, wherein deployment is effectively integrated in the organization's value streams. Generally, in the exam, the questions could be about general questions about each level, what happens at each level. And the other type could be the criteria defined at for each of the PSFs. Therefore, I won't play too much emphasis on the level mentioned in these tables here, except for some of the unique ones that I mentioned sometimes. And level 5, we have the deployment models, plan scenarios are reviewed and continually improved.